welcome Jacqueline Van Den Ende, the founder and managing director of Lamudi Philippines.
Thank you, Richard. You almost got my name right. My name is Jacqueline Van Den Ende, but easier to just call me Jackie. So I'm the current managing director and the founder of Lamudi Philippines, which is at this moment the largest online real estate website in the Philippines. We work with a couple of people also here in the room. Fortunately, a lot of real estate related businesses. KMC we've been talking with, JLL, and a couple of other companies here as well. So what I'll tell you about today is, well, my story about how I got to the Philippines, where I come from, and also I'll share a couple of lessons of what I learned during my first year of operations in the Philippines. I came to the Philippines in November 2013, and we launched the website approximately 1 year ago, so we've been in operation for almost 1 year. So, chapter 1, who am I? Well, I come from the Netherlands, as I said. The Netherlands is a very small country, tucked away between Germany and the UK and Belgium. And the Netherlands is also known as Holland. Now, Netherlands means lowlands, and Holland means hollow land. The reason that our country is called that way is because the country is actually hollow, and the vast majority of the country is below sea level. So if not for the dikes, then pretty much all of the country would be flooded. So here you can actually see ships sailing over the roads. And here are the dikes that protect our country. Now, if not for the dikes, the country would pretty much look like this. This is what happened in 1953 when there was a major flood disaster in the country. So the Netherlands, or Holland, is known for a couple of things. Cheese, Dutch cheese, you might know, Edammer cheese. Secondly, bicycles. So the Netherlands has 16 million people and 20 million bicycles. So on average, we have 1.2 bicycle per person, as you can see in this picture. We're also known for coffee shops. So anybody who has visited Amsterdam will know that you should not go to a coffee shop to enjoy a cup of coffee. At the coffee shop, that's where you would smoke legal weed. Yeah, so the Netherlands is known, somebody's applauding for this. Yeah, so the Netherlands is known for very liberal policies, basically in every respect, but particularly when it comes to drugs. Recently, you could even get your cocaine tested on the streets in Amsterdam because there was some dangerous cocaine going around, and there were signs all over Amsterdam saying, please get your drugs tested, you will not be fined or confined for this. So that's the Netherlands. Now, how did I end up in the Philippines, all the way from the Netherlands, around 16 hours flight away? So, how I got here? Now, as a kid, and how did I become an entrepreneur? As a kid, I did not dream of becoming an entrepreneur. I rather wanted to be an astronaut, or a pilot, or maybe a mountaineer. When my first business idea came when I was around 20 years old. And it was not really particularly because I had such a great business idea, it was rather because I felt I needed to fill up a gap on my resume and that I needed to have some kind of entrepreneurial experience. So I was in Antwerp on a market, and I saw somebody pedaling on a bicycle and at the same time producing juice. So that became my first master business plan, the juice peddler. So you could exercise, and at the same time you could create juice. So I saw this idea becoming big and going viral across gyms all around the country. Now this idea unfortunately did not materialize, as did many other ideas not materialize. Until finally I came up with an idea for the young consultant. I was working in Amsterdam in a very small cinema. A cinema with only one cinema room. And I worked there because I had this dream of becoming a documentary maker in the future. So I thought, well, the closest thing to becoming a documentary maker is to work in cinema. So I was running the cinema together with 10 other students. And all these students were filmmakers or film producers. And they had wonderful ideas, but they had an absolute lack of business sense. And I was an economics and business student. So basically my friends asked me from the cinema, they asked me, Jackie, we have a problem, we want to start a film company, but we don't know why. Because one and a half people want to do documentaries, other half want to make like screen movies. So what can you do? Can you please consult us? So I sat with them for a couple of hours and I asked everybody, what do you want, what do you want, what do you want? And then I basically consolidated their ideas and structured it. And within 2 hours we found a solution that they've been looking for 2 months. And that suddenly brought me to the idea of the little consultants, or the kleine consultant as it's called in the Netherlands. Because I realized that on the one hand, there are a lot of smart students who just by thinking, by common sense, by logical and structured thinking, can add a lot of value to the tons of small businesses, startups, NGOs, who are in need of strategic advice, but who cannot afford to hire McKinsey. That was the birth of the kleine consultant. Now, I had this idea and I went home and I wrote it all down and I basically was awake all night. And the next day, at a party, I met a friend. And I told the friend, we were talking about consulting and we were talking about what to do after our studies. And I said, I know exactly what you should do. You should become my co-founder of the kleine consultant, or the young consultant. And that decision was the best thing I ever did. Because if I had not asked her to join me, I would have never realized my idea, and my idea would just have remained an idea. This is the kleine consultant right now. We have over 120 students across 3 countries working with the kleine consultant. It brings me to my first lesson in business life. Find people who complement you. Understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and find the opposite part of the circle. If you're yin, find your yang, right? So, finding Marika was pivotal to be able to realize the company. Now, the kleine consultant, or the young consultant, at this moment is the biggest non-profit student-run strategy consultant in Europe. But being non-profit, it did not pay the bills. So after finishing my studies, I started working with Holland Investments, a private equity company. My office was located right up in the highest floor of this beautiful building. And private equity, basically, we had a big bag of money. And with that money, my assignment was to buy companies. So at a certain point, our CEO asked me, Jackie, what languages do you speak? So I said, well, I speak Norwegian because I had studied in Norway. So he said, that's very nice. Please go to Sweden and buy us a hearing aid company. So I really got in the car and drove through Sweden and talked to hearing aid companies, and finally I managed to acquire a company. However much interesting and fascinating this job was, I still caught myself staring out the window at times and thinking, is this really it? Is this really what I want to do? And the answer was no, and I had known that for a long time. So in 2013, in my 3rd year, I vowed to myself that I should start a startup or join a startup in 2013. To make true to that promise, I changed my password on my computer to Startup 2013, so I would remind myself every single day of this dream. During the summer of 2013, I met another entrepreneur, and I told him about my dream, saying, I don't want to be in private equity, actually, I want to start a company. And he basically connected me to a couple of companies, among others, Rocket Internet. Brings me to my second life or business lesson. If you want something, say it out loud. If you say it out loud, you will meet, and I guarantee that you will meet the people that can help you realize your dream. So whatever you want in life, say it out loud. Now, I talked with a guy from Rocket Internet. Rocket Internet is the world's largest incubator of online startups in the world. And he said to me, Jackie, what would you think of an adventure abroad? I thought, oh, that would be interesting. So I thought of New York, Silicon Valley flashed through my head, perhaps Berlin. And then he said, how about the Philippines? Philippines. This is what I knew about the Philippines. Really, the Philippines was appearing pretty much every month in the news with another typhoon or some other kind of natural disaster. So I thought, the Philippines, gosh, do I really want to go there? So I Googled the Philippines, and I found out, fortunately, they can surf very well. I'm a very fanatic surfer. So I thought, well, why not? And in addition, I thought, well, if you don't have a go, you will never know. This is the first lesson I learned when I was 4 years old from my grade 1 teacher. She told me, if you don't have a go, you will never know. And this quote has inspired me in my entire life, because every time when I was in doubt whether to do something, I thought, if you don't have a go, you will never know. So always I decided to give it a go. So I packed my bags and I left for Makati. Now what do I do here? So here in the Philippines, I founded Lamudi.com.ph. We're an online real estate website. Basically what we do is help brokers and developers sell their properties. We're part of the Rocket Internet Group, which is also the founder of Lazada, Zalora, Easy Taxi, and many other internet companies. So this is our website, and basically you can fill in your search criteria and find your perfect property. Now our dream is basically to create the most comprehensive, highest quality, and most trustworthy online real estate website in the Philippines. In 5 years, I hope you will no longer go to Google. I hope you will go directly to lamudi.com.ph, because you trust that every single property, for sale or for rent, in the country is on our website, and that you trust that the quality of the information is correct, and that you trust that the people on our website, brokers and developers, are trustworthy enough to engage with. That's our dream. Now, internet is a major opportunity in the Philippines. So here we see basically the growth of internet in the Philippines. And you see that basically in 1997, online internet penetration was almost 0. In 2007, we were around 8%, and then it exploded. We're currently at around 39% internet penetration, and that has been growing at a growth rate of 531% over the past 5 years. So internet is a massive opportunity, particularly if you compare internet in the Philippines to our neighbors. So say in Singapore, the internet penetration is almost 80%. So that's where we're heading. So internet has the future. Now, if people are online, that means also that they're searching for properties online. So in the US, 90% of people start their search for properties online. Well, why? Of course, because it saves you a lot of time running around from tripping to tripping, and you can enjoy basically browsing for properties from the comfort of your home. So it makes perfect sense to the consumer. Lamudi Philippines currently, we have around 50 employees, 3 offices in Manila, Cebu, and Davao, around 700,000 visitors per month. We have around 90,000 properties, and we work with over 1,000 brokers, developers, and agents. Cool. So, of course, we came from a far way ago, and basically it hasn't always been like this. So pretty much when we started out in the Philippines, when I arrived here with my suitcase, I brought 2 interns. And this is how we started out, at a picnic table in Zalora's office, with the 2 of us. And we spent our days strategizing about how we would go about and how we would start this business. The first thing that we did was to recruit an HR manager and a sales manager, basically to be able to start scaling the business. Then we grew it slightly bigger, 5 people by January, and a more professional office in Lazada. And then in March we were already around 25. And currently, this is our office with over 50 people and still growing. The adventure of Lamudi has just started. Now, what did I learn during the past months running this company? The first and maybe the most important lesson for me was get the right people on the bus and particularly also get the wrong people off the bus. Yeah? So I think one of my biggest mistakes last year was to not offload or terminate people who were not performing and who had a negative influence on the company. I had to fire a key employee last year, and it was extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. It took me half a year, whereas from day one I knew that that was not the right hire. And after I did it, I looked in the mirror and I could actually see 3 gray hairs penetrating from my head, and I'm 30 years old, so I'm not supposed to have gray hairs. But I was so stressed about this decision. But still, it was a very important decision. When people do not perform, and particularly drag down the culture, and drag down the energy in your company, do not keep them on the bus. Your company is as good as the people in your team. So that was one of my key learnings. Secondly, Skype. Now, Skype is one of my key lessons in efficient communication. I used to use email, but email is too slow for this age and day. So what I do, I have every single employee, every single of my team members on Skype. I have Skype, I Skype with people in Berlin, I Skype with teams in Cebu and Davao, which allows for real-time and immediate communication with everyone, and it drastically increased the efficiency of our business. Third, understand every process by doing it yourself. I don't think you can manage or successfully manage a business if you do not fully understand the business. And that very much relates to our previous speaker who started out flipping the burgers and then started out doing black and white obituaries, right? You have to be able to do it yourself. So Tuesday nights I spent up to 12 midnight in the office with my finance guy going through every single revenue line item, matching it with Salesforce, and doing it 5 times again, right? Because constantly we make mistakes. Now, that is part of the business, and you need to be able to make your hands dirty. I believe in leading by example, and I always want to be the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I will not leave the office before any one of my employees leaves the office, because I want to lead by example. And I think that inspires your team. Also because ideas are just ideas. The success of your business lies not in the grand idea or the big vision, but particularly in constant, incremental improvements to your operations. You can only make these improvements if you really understand your business. Lastly, this is a quote from the director of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. And I once saw his video, and I think it's called 5 Ways to Lead a Great Life. And one of his lessons was, if you make a mistake, say, how interesting. And that stuck with me a lot. And every time I make a mistake, or every time I'm personally super disappointed, I say, how interesting. How interesting that this happened. And it's a really great way to think about the mistakes in a positive way, and to particularly draw learning from what went wrong. So if you make a mistake, say how interesting, as failing is just a first attempt in learning. Looking ahead, I think there's a lot in store for Lamudi, of course, but there's also a lot in store for the Philippines. And if I were to start a new company, I would definitely do it here in the Philippines. Why? Because, first of all, I love the people in the Philippines. Philippines has exceptionally well-educated people. Everybody speaks brilliant English, so you can communicate the same language. But also people are proactive. They take responsibility. They drive the business rather than just being employees. I see in the Filipinos a lot of entrepreneurs, and that makes me extremely positive about the outlook of the Philippines. Secondly, of course, is growth. So Philippines is outshining all the other Asian tigers when it comes to economic growth. Now, if you compare that to Europe, growth has almost stalled to about 0%. So it's so much more exciting to be in the Philippines, and that's indeed also what OFWs are sensing. Or my girlfriend who works with Nestle, she says, I don't actually want to go abroad because there's so much more potential, so much for me to learn in the Philippines than anywhere else. Third opportunity, as a startup, it's amazing to be in the Philippines because if you compare it to Silicon Valley, there's so much opportunity, so much business models still to be developed, and so much less competition. So it's such an opportunity to live in the Philippines. And lastly, Philippines is paradise. Paradise not only for the beautiful beaches, not only for the wonderful surf in La Union, but paradise particularly for the beautiful people. Philippines has such positive people, it's amazing. We had the typhoon last August, and one of my team members, they lost the roof of the house. And in the Netherlands, that would be a major issue. But next day, everybody's at the office and nobody talks about it anymore. Life is happy again. So the Philippines are extremely optimistic and positive people, and I feel extremely happy in the Philippines because the Filipinos are so happy. So you'll see more from me, and I'll be here to stay. Thank you very much.